All right, if you are prepping for any kind of finance exam, you know there are these concepts that just seem designed to trip you up. And right at the top of that list, it's got to be effective duration versus key rate duration. I mean, they look alike, they sound alike, and confusing them is such a classic mistake. So, in the next few minutes, we are going to make sure you never make that mistake. Let's break it down.
So here it is. This is the trap. You see that both of these things measure a bond's price drop for a 1% rate hike, and you think, okay, same thing. But they're not. And the secret, the key to getting that exam question right, isn't what they measure, it's how they assume the interest rates are going to move in the first place.
Okay, let's kick things off with the one most people learn first, effective duration. Just think of this as the big picture, all-in-one sledgehammer measure of your interest rate risk. In this slide right here, it gives us the single most important word you have to remember, and that word is entire. Honestly, that's the whole game for effective duration. It measures how sensitive a bond's price is, but, and this is the key part, it assumes every single point on the yield curve, from tomorrow to 30 years from now, shifts up by the exact same amount, all at the exact same time. This is the concept you have to burn into your brain for the exam. Effective duration is totally built on this one huge, really rigid assumption, a parallel shift. It basically pretends the whole yield curve is like a solid plank of wood that just moves up or down together. Now, we all know the real world is way messier than that, but for this big picture risk measure, that is the rule.
Let's make this way more concrete. I want you to imagine the yield curve is a staircase, right? Each step is a different maturity. 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, you get it. Effective duration is like bringing in a giant forklift and lifting the entire staircase all at once. Every single step from the bottom to the top goes up by the exact same amount at the exact same time. It's one big, unified move.
Okay, so that was the brute force forklift lift. Now let's contrast that with a much more precise tool. This brings us to key rate duration, which is all about making a surgical move. And here is the fundamental difference. With key rate duration, we completely forget about the entire curve moving. Instead, we zoom in on one single point. We call it a key rate, maybe the 5-year rate, and we measure the price impact if only that one rate moves, while every other point on the curve stays completely frozen in place.
A great way to put it is that key rate duration completely abandons the all-at-once rule. We are officially throwing out that whole idea of a parallel shift. We're not treating the curve like a solid block of wood anymore. We're now seeing it for what it really is, something that's flexible, something that can bend and twist and change its shape. So let's go back to our staircase analogy. If effective duration was that forklift lifting the whole thing, key rate duration is like taking a tiny hammer and just tapping one of the steps, let's say the 5-year step, and knocking it upwards. And the rest of the staircase, it doesn't budge, not an inch. It is a targeted, totally surgical move. So let's put it all together, head to head, in a simple table. For effective duration, the move is all at once. For key rate duration, it's surgical. The shift for effective is parallel. For key rate, it's non-parallel. And the analogy is the entire staircase versus a single step. Honestly, just memorize this table, and you have locked in the core difference for your exam.
Okay, so they seem like two completely different tools, right? One's a sledgehammer, the other is a scalpel. But here's the really cool part. This is the aha moment. They aren't actually separate things at all. They are perfectly, mathematically connected.
And the logic here is actually pretty simple if you think about it. Imagine you have a 10-year bond. It doesn't just pay you back once in 10 years, right? It pays you all these little coupons along the way. Well, that little coupon payment you get in year 2 is most affected by the 2-year interest rate. And the coupon in year 5, you guessed it, it's most affected by the 5-year rate, and so on. Every cash flow has its own specific key rate sensitivity.
And that leads us to the final, absolutely critical link. If you calculate the key rate duration for every single point along the curve, if you measure the sensitivity of every single step on our staircase, and then you add all of those individual numbers up, the total will be exactly equal to the bond's effective duration. The sum of all the small surgical moves equals the one big all-at-once move. See? It all ties together perfectly.
So why do we need both, right? You might be thinking, well, if they just add up, why not stick with the simple all-in-one effective duration? Because in the real world, where portfolio managers have to manage actual risk, the details are everything.
Here's the bottom line for any real-world manager. Effective duration is your quick summary. It's your dashboard. It tells you your overall risk if all rates move together in that nice parallel way. But key rate duration, that's your diagnostic tool. It pinpoints exactly where your risk is hiding. It's what tells you what's going to happen to your portfolio if the yield curve twists. You know, when short-term rates go up, but long-term rates actually go down?
And that brings us right back to our staircase. Effective duration lets you see if the entire staircase is moving up or down. But key rate duration lets you check each individual step for cracks and weaknesses. It is the crucial difference between knowing your overall risk and knowing exactly where that risk is coming from. If you can master that distinction, you've completely mastered this topic.